the people who are with me here, let me feel your warmth. Good morning, everybody. We can tell those who are listening to us virtually that we have been privileged to enjoy a good cup of warm tea and coffee, right? So that next time they also come, To our audio and to our virtual online audience, good morning. Most welcome to our session today, Mental Wellness Business Webinar. This is the second of the series that we are having in partnership with Ecobank, who are our lovely hosts today, Melanin Capital and Wild International. My name is Njeri Lucy. I am the cluster head for technical assistance in Wild International, and I will be your host this morning to just enable you have a session of reflection, a session of listening, and most importantly, as we say in entrepreneurship, a session of being able to connect with other people. We have heard and always know that your network is your net worth. So as we say, you who is listening to us online, please introduce yourself by name, your organization or your company, and because our session today is on mental wellness, tell us, what are your top 3 challenges in business? I have said 3 because I know we are entrepreneurs. Shida nini? Masani macha? Yes. Mambo ni matatu tu. Your top 3 challenges. It's your session of, how do you say, peer-to-peer therapy. Because our therapist today is going to come and hear all those challenges and give us tools to be able to thrive. Because there is no other way apart from thriving. And even for my lovely audience here, thank you very much for connecting with each other. But I know you had not spoken about your problems, which is good. But I'm hoping you had introduced yourself, your business, but now you can share what is your top 3 challenges in business. It is always said, a problem shared is a problem half solved. Isn't that so? All right, let's get talking. Our online audience, are you introducing yourself? Our in-person audience, kindly speak to your neighbor. And if you are an introvert, I'm not going to say like me, just try one person, and you'll find your solution. All right, let's get connecting. So we are introducing ourselves by name, by the business we represent, and then we are sharing what are the top 3 challenges that we face. You never know, your solution is with your neighbor. So let's get doing that. You can type them in the chat for us who are online. The chat is for the introduction. The question and answer will be for that point where you have already a set of questions or questions to be able to ask our speaker for this morning.
Akiingia kwa presentation sahihi anafaa kupin Njeri hizi GP.
Our challenges are many.
Maybe we started this part and
Okay, let's sample a few. What are the challenges we as entrepreneurs are experiencing? So to sample a few, one, debt collection with clients with long overdue amounts. We have also price sensitive clients and we do not want to lose them, especially for online platforms. And then, of course, from our last session, we know tax is also a big one, but we shall not talk about it today. We were given tips on how to deal with it, and actually, just to let you know, that session is on our YouTube channel as well, so you can go and find more details. So today we are talking about mental wellness, and we'd like to be invited in this home that we have come, Ecobank. So we'd like to invite Madam Jacqueline Bitutu, who heads the Elevate and the SME docket. Let us welcome her. For us who are in person here, let us hear your warm claps. And for you who are online, let us hear your virtual claps. Karibu sana, Jacqueline.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to see you and I hope you enjoyed the breakfast. I would like to recognize our online audience, recognize entrepreneurs in the house and the ones online. They keep our economy going. I'd like to also recognize our partners. Our partners in this webinar are Melanin Capital, Wild International, and Africa Guarantee Fund. The relationship we have with these three partners is for the benefit of our SMEs and women businesses. What we do is, as a bank, as Ecobank, we offer the financial services and we partner with Melanin Capital, Africa Guarantee Fund to deliver other solutions like capacity building, what we are doing today. Find out what challenges SMEs are facing, what challenges even the employees who work in those SMEs are facing, and come up with sessions that actually deal with that. Today is the second of 3 planned series for webinar. One we already did last month, and that webinar was talking about the common mistakes that we make as entrepreneurs. It was an eye-opener. I personally learned a lot. We even had an entrepreneur who found out that they had been overpaying taxes. You know how you're working very hard to make sure you're underpaying, managing taxes. You could also have a situation where you want to ensure that you're not in trouble and find that you're paying even what you're not expected to be paying. And then the next one that we have in the month of September is more exciting, and I had the pleasure of sitting next to 2 of the attendees who were talking about agribusiness coincidentally. And our next webinar is going to be specifically about e-commerce in the agribusiness space. We are going deeper into specialized areas. My name is Jackie Bitutu Wanyande. I'm responsible for women banking at Ecobank. Our women banking proposition is called Elevate. We're here to elevate your business and we elevate women specifically. Ecobank, the organization I work for, is a Pan-African bank. I know the online attendees and even the physical attendees. Some of them know who Ecobank is. Some of them are new to Ecobank. We are a Pan-African bank. We operate in a number of markets. Currently, our newest number would get us to, this number changes very often. Obed is always reminding me that I need to be very cognizant of how fast we are expanding. So we are Pan-African Bank. Of course, we're in Kenya, the East African region. We're in Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda. We are also in Burundi, South Sudan. We have a presence in Ethiopia. We are in Central Africa. We are in Gabon, Chad, Congo, Brazzaville. We are present in all these countries and in 35 markets. In the 35 markets, we have offices globally also. We have a presence in London, Beijing, Dubai, and we have a representative office in Paris. So the reason we position ourselves that way is one of the key benefits you get by banking with us is you're able to do trade outside of Kenya seamlessly because we have a payment solution that works seamlessly across all the markets where we operate. We will go into the details of that today. We are gathered here both online and physically to talk about the challenges. One of the challenges I face personally, even though I have not been asked, I would like to volunteer, is burnout, and I sometimes confuse it for stress. And they're very distinct things. Those are two different things. When you have stress, you can go to Mombasa, leave your laptop behind and come back feeling happy. When you have burnout, you can go 17 trips and still wonder what's going on with your life. I leave the rest to our mental experts to deal with that. Karibuni.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jackie. A research by Endeavor in partnership with BEAD, Lab, Flourish, and UNDE has a few things to say about mental wellness. One, most entrepreneurs, that is 91.5%, know of another entrepreneur who is struggling with mental health challenges. The second aspect is most entrepreneurs, that's about 64.4%, work over 50 hours a day. A week. The third is that 60.2 and 35.6 respectively are those entrepreneurs who are concerned about your financial situation and fundraising. Now we talk about health and performance. 75.4% of us feel the pressure of people's expectation. You realize that if you work in corporate, you know a salary is coming at the end of the month. As entrepreneurs who are here and listening to us virtually, round about now, where are salaries of my employees coming from? Now, to tell us more about that is the one who supports enterprises in the ecosystem in World International, the CEO, Mr. Chris Odongo. Let us welcome him here and virtually as well. Karibu sana, Chris.
Thanks, Jerry. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I'm delighted to be here. As you've heard, my name is Chris Odongo. I was about to shout from the back there. We're not wondering about the salaries for August. We are wondering about the salaries for June. Okay? Yeah. Just in case you thought we're thinking about August salaries for our employees, we promise you very soon, June salaries will be paid. Thank you so much for hanging in there. And sometimes I'm encouraged because one time I had this county government had owed salaries for 3 months, So I thought I'm not doing too bad, I'm in good company, but that only happens in Africa. For our corporate friends who are paid by 20th, please do not withhold our money. Pay us so that we can pay our employees. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to stand here today and welcome you to this amazing conversation that we are having here with Ecobank, Melanin Capital, Africa Guarantee Fund, and Hopewell, who are going to be our speakers for this session. At Wild International, we know that entrepreneurs love the phrase, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And entrepreneurs always forget that all the arrows are pointing to them. Is it taxes? Is it difficult customers? Is it employees who you need to empower? Is it suppliers who are demanding for their payments? Is it, what is it called? Associations that you belong to that are asking for your time? Is it your family members who are calling you in the morning? And because we are, what is it called, socially engaged, they somehow imagine that because you run your own business, you actually have total control of your time and that you are able to stop what you're doing and turn up because they have in their mind what they consider an emergency. Those are your relatives, and not to mention that you actually do have time for your family, for your children, for your spouses, for your friends, and all these pressures are coming on the entrepreneur. And on top of that, you have a difficult economy to deal with. So when the going gets tough, the entrepreneurs get going. And we did a research some time back, and we actually found out that during tough times, there are businesses that grow. And we were very curious because we were asking these businesses, it was a tough time. They said, yes, it was a tough time. Did you grow? Yes, we grew. And so we went further and asked, what could have caused you to grow? What could have influenced that growth? And businesses could not tell because it was not obvious. It was a difficult environment. It was a tough time. It was an election year in Kenya, but some businesses grew. And when we dug deeper, we decided with our research partner then to ask a different question. And what we asked then was, did you work harder? Okay, but of course, when you ask people, did they work harder? They'll say, yes, I worked harder. So you want to really distinguish what kind of hard work is this. So we asked them, did you find yourself working longer days so that you are working past hours beyond what you did last year? Did you find yourself working more weekends? Did you find yourself pushing your employees to work overtime and to work weekends? And it was without a doubt, 100% of the entrepreneurs who reported that their businesses had grown also reported that in that year they had worked harder. And so it's no wonder that entrepreneurs end up facing burnout, stress, anxiety, and that is even when it is working. And we have met entrepreneurs who sometimes it's not working. You have not yet figured out how to make your business model work. And so you're working hard to try and figure out how to make this work, and it's not working, and therefore you're not getting the revenues. And that even breeds a sense of hopelessness and a sense of defeat. And it's important that you protect your mental wellness. And in today's conversation, it's about shifting the narrative. It's about reminding ourselves that resilience does not mean burning out. It means building habits, building communities, building support systems that can keep us steady even when the storm hits and when the storm comes hard. It's about acknowledging that there's pressure, yes, but choosing to rise above it. It's about planning and planning well so that you are able to take a break when you need to, you are able to take a breath when you need to, you are able to go and talk to somebody when you need to. And going beyond that, it's about creating an environment where our employees, our suppliers, our partners can also have access to these essential conversations so that the pressure that comes from the workplace, people can find a way to manage it. It's about putting in place systems, policies, processes that allow you and your team members to also go on leave. It's about putting in these policies, processes that allows you and your team members to have access to a mental wellness professionals. So for those who are joining us online, congratulations for showing up. This is a very important session. You have taken time to invest in yourself. For those who have come here in person, thank you so much for turning up and for choosing to put yourself in front of your business, to put yourself in front of your customer, to put yourself in front of your loved ones, and let's be honest, let's equip ourselves not to just survive, but to thrive. Lean in and let's have an honest conversation. Once again, welcome and thank you very much for this opportunity. Jerry, back to you.
Prepare my thoughts. You know, I need my job. Thank you very much, Chris. That is part of mental wellness. I decided to align in whichever way. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to that hour where what I like to say is almost like group therapy, and we are truly looking forward. I told our speaker the mountain of these problems, I hope she can handle it because it is a lot. So before I introduce her, let me read something from that very study. This is by Mariana Dias, CEO of GUPY, G-U-P-Y. One of the lessons of entrepreneurship is that work never ends. True or not true? It is not a 100-meter sprint. It is a marathon. With every step taken, new responsibilities are added. And Mr. Odongo Chris likes to say, when you get new problems, that means you are growing. Hopefully you're not repeating old ones. So it's important to enjoy the journey. It is great to grow by 300% per year, right? But at what cost? Are you happy? Is your team happy and engaged? Every entrepreneur who wants to make a big impact has to understand their priorities. It's really part of what the CEO of World International has mentioned. And so as we begin our session, I'd just like to bring to your attention that because you will have questions, we know you do have them. For our in-person audience, there are pieces of paper next to you on your seat. That's the QR code for the Mentimeter. Just buy a little bundles, a little not to finish your money, and scan it and be able to type in your questions there. And then for our online audience, please write your questions in the Q&A part of the of that link. Okay, so let me repeat again. For us who are here in person, kindly use your bundles and scan the QR code and type in your questions. And for you who is listening to us online, please do write for us the questions in the Q&A section, part of the link. And now, ladies and gentlemen, introducing to you someone who is passionate about mental health advocacy and is on a mission to inspire hope and equip adults with tools so that you thrive emotionally and mentally. She is a board-certified counseling psychologist and founder of Unburden Yourself. She helps people build resilience, face daily struggles with courage, and cultivate kindness towards themselves and others. Her work combines professional insight and deeply personal approach, empowering clients to develop strength, grace, positive habits that create meaningful transformation in everyday life. Would you like to meet that person? Would you like to meet that person?
Yes.
So here is welcoming Madam Jamila Chele. Most welcome. Let us welcome you. That is not a warm welcome for your therapist.
Thank you very much, Jerry, and thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you for this opportunity as well. Really looking forward to this conversation, especially because I was asked early this morning, is it really possible to thrive in business? Is it really possible to thrive as an entrepreneur? It's just something that we do to survive. We just survive and that's that. But I'm here to tell you today that yes, it is possible to thrive and we're going to find out how. But beyond that, I also want to encourage you to inspire hope and to help you feel supported in your journey as entrepreneurs and in your journey in business. And so this presentation is supposed to help you see the how, because entrepreneurs like asking the question, how? I can see where I want to go, but how am I getting there? So I'm telling you how we're going to thrive. Are you ready?
Yes.
Great. So we understand the challenges that we have in business, and that is something that we can relate with. But we also need to understand what exactly mental health is and how exactly it impacts how we run our businesses, how it affects us as people, as individuals, as employers, employees, and as people who are running a business. And so mental health is a state of being. It is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes their own capacity. So a state of being in which you can realize your own potential as an individual, a state of being in which you can cope with the stresses of daily life in a healthy way. It is also a state in which you can work productively and fruitfully, because it is true that you can be productive but not fruitful, right? So it is a state of well-being where you can work productively and fruitfully. And it is also one in which you are able to make a contribution to society, a contribution to your community. Entrepreneurship is something that we do to make an impact, right? It's not just about ourselves. Is that right? It starts with a vision, a dream, a goal, and an impact that you want to have. It's so much more than something you do for your own benefit. It's something that you want to leave behind, something that you want to live beyond you. And so to be effective as an entrepreneur, to be effective in your business, you need to be able to be healthy enough so that you can have that impact that you desire to have. That is mental health. There's also mental wellness. Now, mental wellness is an internal resource. It is something that we have within us, and it is what allows us to connect, what allows us to function. It is what allows us to feel and to think. And so it is a process that actively helps us to build resilience, to grow and to thrive. And so we know that growth, resilience, and thriving are things that we want in our businesses and things that we need as entrepreneurs. Now, the relationship between mental health and wellness is such that the activities that we add value to us is what leads to increase in our mental wellness, yeah? And in turn, it increases our mental health. So if you're doing things that adds value to your ability to think, your ability to feel, your ability to connect, then you're adding to your mental wellness, which in turn increases your mental health. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so now that we have understood what mental health and mental wellness is, and we agree that with the challenges that we experience in business, we can now look at the connection between mental health and business. So challenges that we have in business, I categorize them into three. We have unmet expectations, dynamic business environment, personal, social, and financial constraints. So when you look at unmet expectations, think of the start of your journey as an entrepreneur or in business. You have a vision, you have a place you want to go. Like, I'm going to start this business, I'm going to register. And so you take those steps, you register your business, you follow all the legal procedures, you're good to go, you're excited. And then the day comes when you get that notification that it's official, your business has been registered, you're a business owner. Like, great, next. Do I have capital? More often than not, we don't have startup capital, yes?
Yes.
Right? More often than not, startup capital is an issue. So maybe you had that expectation that when you share this great idea with potential investors, you thought, these guys, when they hear this, they'll be down, they'll give me the capital that I need. But how many people start businesses and the first thing that they hear is no, no, no. And you're there and you're thinking, my idea is going to change the game. My idea is going to impact the world. My idea is what is going to sustain generations to come. And people look at you straight in the eye and they say, no. Isn't that an unmet expectation? On a personal level and also on a business level. And yet we are growing up in a society where we are told, when you put yourself out there, things will fall into place. When you talk to the right people, when you read, when you go to school, when you follow the right steps, then your path is straight. But what is the reality of entrepreneurship? It's not straight at all. So in that moment, as a person and as a newly minted business owner, what do you do with your unmet expectation? Do you give up at that point and like, maybe business wasn't for me, let me just go back to employment? What happens then? Then we're looking at dynamic business environments. The nature of entrepreneurship is such that it is dynamic. The nature of business, it is dynamic. So ideally, as entrepreneurs, we are supposed to expect the unexpected on a daily basis, but you have goals. There are numbers, these expectations. If it is a business that is growing, it means you'll be hiring soon. So you'll have staff depending on you. If you happen to be, if you happen to have a family, for example, there's expectations that you have at home and the expectations that you have in the business. And there's also economic expectations. COVID, for example, that threw everyone off. How many businesses were impacted positively? How many businesses were impacted negatively? Same pandemic, but there are businesses that grew, others completely closed shop. And in some cases, people had to completely turn around. Imagine yourself in a position where you've just started this company, maybe you're the co-founder together with two others, and then COVID happens, and then your two co-founders get COVID and unfortunately pass on, and you're left there with this new venture. What do you do? Who do you turn to? At that time, when you're being told, don't leave the house. What do you do in that situation? And that is something that happened and has happened. So dynamic business environments are things that we don't necessarily have control over, but things that we still need to prepare for. And that is a challenge. Personal, social, and financial constraints. Financial constraints is something that I have already mentioned and something that comes up a lot in every conversation. Raising capital, ensuring your employees are paid on time if you have employees, sustaining business operations, making decisions that mean that you're allocating funds to the right products. How do you know you're not wasting your money? How do you know it's going to the right place? How do you know you even have that money in the first place? Entrepreneurship is something that thrives on connections. What happens if you're going into business, you don't have those connections, but those connections is what is going to lead you to the finances that you need. That's unusual. And if we're looking at the personal level, it is true that there are things that bring us together as entrepreneurs, both male and female. But on a personal level, the experience of the female entrepreneur is different from the male entrepreneur, especially when you bring things like family dynamics into play. Imagine a young lady who is raising maybe a 3-year-old and is expecting another. She's also a homemaker. She's also a husband. Maybe at this point she's working a 9 to 5, and she decides to start a side hustle because she's looking at the economy and she's wondering, how am I going to sustain my family in the long run with this 9 to 5 that I have? It's not enough. So let me start a side hustle. So you're supposed to give 100% to your husband, 100% to your home, 100% to your children, 100% to yourself as an individual, and still 100% to this business. And you're still answerable at work. You have performance reviews, you have expectations that you're supposed to meet. You're one person. But imagine this man who is also starting a family. He has all these expectations on him, especially the African man. He's expected to be the primary provider. And in this day and age, he's expected also to be a hands-on father. There's nothing like, back in the day, or let me say, back in the day when I was growing up, there was a lot of focus on if the man of the house is providing, fees, is providing money for shopping for the house. That was how they showed up. But this day and age where there's, conversations about being woke and all of that, this man is expected to be a good husband. He's expected to be a hands-on father who is there to change the diapers, who is there also to soothe the child, who is there to wake up at night because the mother spends the day with the child. This man is also expected to show up 100% at work. He's also expected to remain the visionary in his home and set the direction for his family. He's expected to have all the ideas that keep the company running. He's the one that all the employees are coming to for advice. Like, you need this. This is your guy. That's the one. This man is also expected to show up in ways that put a burden on him. So yes, as entrepreneurs, there are similarities in the challenges that we face, but also because of the different gender roles that we play, there are pressures that a man faces that a woman may not necessarily understand, but because she does not understand them, she's still expected to show up and support this man in the best way possible. In the same way that men may not necessarily understand to a full extent the challenges that women face, but are expected to show up and support in the best way they know how. And that is why in business, let's look at couples who are married. Before there's that decision to start a business, this couple will sit down and discuss, say, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to go. Are you willing to support me on that journey? If yes, what is that going to look like? Because the truth about entrepreneurship, especially at the beginning stages, it is tough. It demands everything, your mental, your emotional, your physical presence. So do you have a spouse who is going to be willing to support you through that? If yes, what does that support look like? That means you're looking at things like communication in the marriage relationship, as well as communication as maybe business partners, or even communication in terms of if my spouse is going to be doing late hours at night, what does that look like for me? Are you beginning to see how it also affects us as people on the personal level, and how that can also affect us in our business, yeah? And so what it does with all of these pressures, with unmet expectations, with the inability to control dynamic business environments, and the personal, social, and financial constraints that we face, the pressure that it puts on us is what becomes a threat to well-being, business ventures, and achievement. So that pressure can affect your marriage relationship at home. It can affect your relationship with your children, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your friends. It can also affect your business. It can affect whether your business is healthy or whether it is unhealthy, whether it is productive, whether decisions are being made in the right way. It is the reason sometimes you will come into, I don't know if you have had circumstances where you check into the office and you get to the reception and the first thing is like, how is the boss today? How is the mood? Yeah, so that you know how to prepare yourself psychologically for the rest of the day. That is because of the pressures that we experience. And this impact of stress, it can impact us to the point of poor decision making. And poor decision making can really cost us. It can cost the business. It can be the difference between the business surviving and the business failing. It can be the difference between how much money you make, how much money you lose. It can be the difference between you making the impact that you want to make and you not making any impact at all. It can be the difference between your own health as a person. Haven't we heard of stories where business puts so much pressure on someone that they just give up completely? Misallocation of resources. When you're not making the right decisions, when you're not directing money in the right places, it leads to misallocation. So you're losing, you're bleeding. The company can start to bleed. Your business can start to bleed. Your venture begins to bleed because you're not making decisions to put resources in the right places, to direct them in the right places. Yeah, you can be putting out the right products, and maybe your market is not even interested in that product. Isn't that a waste of resources? Ineffective and inefficient management of product development processes. The good thing about being healthy is that it allows you to focus on the right thing at the right time in the right way. But when you're unhealthy, when you're dealing with that pressure and you don't know or you don't have the right outlet for it, then your operations become inefficient and ineffective. So what are you doing? And you see, the more ineffective and inefficient it becomes, the more you're likely to end up in a cycle of inefficiency and ineffectiveness. And before you know it, you're bleeding out to the point that you can't manage it anymore and you lose out completely. So we've talked about mental health, we've talked about mental wellness, and we have seen the impact that it can have on us when we are healthy, when we are unhealthy, and in relation to our businesses. And now we want to look at resilience, the thing that entrepreneurs need to thrive. Resilience is the key. Resilience is what allows you to handle this pressure in a way that allows you to keep your business going and to stay sane. Because the truth is, running a business, sometimes you can feel like you're losing your mind, yes? Yeah, so this is it. This is the beginning of the how. So we're going to look at 3 definitions of resilience. The first one is a general definition: an individual or organization's ability to bounce back from hardships, to learn from challenges, and to grow. Bouncing back, learning from challenges, and in a way that leads to growth. So you can bounce back, but it's possible to bounce back without leading to growth. You can bounce back and stagnate. So the key, there are 3 things. In the general definition of resilience, there are 3 things that you can keep at the top of your mind: the ability to bounce back, to learn from challenges, and to grow. And then we can look at a more psychological definition: a responsive process that involves perceptions, thoughts, coping strategies, and behaviors in relation to adversity. A responsive process, resilience as a responsive process, tells us that it is something that can be developed. It is something that can be learned. It's not necessarily something that you need to put pressure on yourself and be like, I am resilient, so this business is going to succeed. Yes, it is something that can be learned, and we learn it through the experiences that we have as entrepreneurs. So what does that tell you in your approach to business? That tells you that you can take it one step at a time. It tells you that you can give yourself a chance to make mistakes, to learn as you go. It tells you that you could actually be on the right track if you just give yourself some space and time to discover it. It tells you that that idea you have deserves some attention. It tells you that you can actually take a chance on yourself because you have a chance to learn and to develop resilience. And when we're looking at perceptions, thoughts, coping strategies, and behaviors, on the individual level, we are looking at our thought patterns, our emotions, how we feel about what we are doing, how we respond to situations, how we respond to ourselves, how we respond to crises. This definition here is in relation to business specifically. The capacity to recover from business failures, manage environmental dynamics, and maintain psychological and physical conditions in periods of stress and vulnerability. So a resilient business is one that has the capacity to recover from failures. How do we usually feel when we fail? It doesn't feel nice at all. And as an entrepreneur, it can feel like the end. A lot of the times you fail once, twice, especially the first time, if it's really big and there are major losses, you just feel like maybe this was a bad idea. but there's the capacity to recover from business failures. So if you have that, at least you have one component of resilience as a business. And the other thing about maintaining physical and psychological conditions, physical conditions looks like if you happen to have staff and you're experiencing an environmental change or an environmental crisis that requires you to maybe lay off some staff. It is not by choice, but it is as a result of the circumstances. Are you able to do it in a way that you're empathetic to your staff, but you're also able to maintain the operations of the business in such a way that you can sustain it beyond the adversity that you're experiencing? And in terms of the psychological component, are you able to regulate your own emotions? Are you able to make decisions that are beneficial to the company, that are beneficial to the people that you work with? Are you able to remain strong and stable emotionally enough to handle the stress that comes with the change in environment? And so when we look at resilience in business in terms of what it does, it allows for stress regulation while sustaining business operations and making room for creativity and innovation. So if you are resilient and you are running an organization that is resilient, you are running a venture that is resilient, what essentially happens is that you are able to regulate stress. And stress in this case can be defined as mental tension. Think of it as emotional and psychological tension that is associated with a feeling of overwhelm and differentiated from burnout. Burnout can be considered to be prolonged stress or exhaustion, emotional, psychological, and physical exhaustion that is as a result of prolonged stress. And the main difference between burnout and stress is that with burnout, you get frustration, you get irritability, and you're not able to function in a way. With stress, you're able to function and you are able to continue with life, but it also matters how you respond to that stress. And with stress regulation, you respond to it positively. You respond to it in such a way that you acknowledge that the stress is there and you handle it with coping mechanisms that we shall look at as we continue. Sustaining business operations and making room for creativity and innovation. If you are resilient and you have been able to push through this challenging time, the business is still running, you still have your staff, things are seemingly going well, you can make room for creativity. You can continue to innovate. Let's look at an example. If we look at COVID, for example, it forced businesses to shift their operations to digital platforms because of the social distancing that we had to do. That decision to shift to a digital platform is a decision that saved many businesses. That decision to open up to online options when previously you had been running completely physical operations is a decision that saved a lot of businesses. And that is creativity, that is innovation. Another example of creativity and innovation that we saw during COVID is that shift of some companies to focus on production of masks. At the time, it might have looked as just being opportunistic, but to the eye, to the normal eye, it could have just been like, hey, these guys are just taking advantage of this situation to make more money off of us. But if you think about it with an entrepreneurial mindset, just think about it. These guys sat down, maybe after shifting their operations to the digital platform now, they had a meeting on Zoom. And they decided the product that we have been putting out up until this point has been very relevant. But because of this pandemic, it is not as relevant. And if we continue to put it out, it is not going to make sense for us in the long run. We want to continue with this operation. What do we do? What are we seeing out there? So they look out and they answer, and then someone in the meeting says, hey, I've been seeing my neighbor. They've been wearing very interesting things to protect themselves, yeah, when they go out shopping. And didn't we see it? Didn't we see videos of people in going shopping and wearing very interesting apparel? So this guy, maybe he gave the suggestion, maybe we can help our people out and just produce masks at a subsidized price. And at that point, the CEO was like, let's give it a shot. And they gave it a shot, and what happened? The mask business started booming and it picked up really fast. And maybe that is what sustained that company during that time, until the time then that we were able to shift back. And when I say shift back to post-COVID, but not really going back to normal because it was now a new normal. Yeah. Another example is sanitizers. They were there in the supermarket and then suddenly we ran out. So what did shops start doing? They started making sanitizers and putting them on keychains. You go, you buy something and then they give you a goodie bag with sanitizer inside. And then at that time, it felt like such a life-saving thing. And that is the very thing that made you feel like, hey, these guys are they're really concerned about my health. I'm going to go back and shop from them. I'm going to go back and work with them. That is creativity, that is innovation. And it's fun. I can see you guys laughing and smiling as you think about it. Yeah. And so being resilient allows you to do that. It allows you to be creative and innovative. And it takes you back to that beginning point that you were at when you were starting your venture, that excitement that you had, that dream that you had, the vision and the goal, because you're creating again. You're able to innovate again. Resilience in business, it supports decision making and motivation while under pressure and when facing adversity. It is very hard to maintain motivation as an entrepreneur when times are tough. True? Very tough. Times are very tough and you're there, you're expected to show up 100%. But wouldn't it be better to show up just as you are, even if you're not at 100%, and share where you are at? Acknowledge where you are at as a person, acknowledge where you are at as a business, and give yourself enough space such that you will have the bandwidth to make the right decisions. And what does making the right decisions under pressure look like? It means taking good enough care of yourself such that you're able to focus on the right problem at the right time in the right way. So like Njeri said, there are many problems. There are very many problems, very many challenges. But resilience calls us to focus on the right challenge, the right problem at the right time. Because you can't solve everything all at once. You can't solve everything in a day. And the reality of entrepreneurship is there will always be a new challenge every day. Like just after your first victory like this, challenge. Like you've stepped out, you've reached the lift, you've entered ground floor. You reach there before you even entered your car or the cab, you get a call. So now, Ama is, Ama is, so I talked to them and you just know how it's going to come. And you're thinking, we just celebrated, we just closed that deal. Like I've not even had like time to process it, to take it, So challenges, they'll be there for sure. They are never ending. But what if our approach to the challenges is different? What if you look at challenge A, B, and C, and you say, right now, challenge B is the one that we need to focus on. A and C can wait. And you look at it and you say, okay, let's channel all our resources. The resources here could be time, it could be effort, it could be conversations, it could be marketing, it's not necessarily financial. Resources are not necessarily financial. It could be, I need to consult, I need to reach out. And so your decision making becomes more effective. And because you're breaking it down, you're not allowing yourself to feel overwhelmed, to sit with all these challenges all at once, it increases your motivation. And isn't it true that when you have conversation with someone who understands the problem that you're dealing with in your business, you feel motivated? Sometimes it's as simple as reaching out to your colleague, reaching out to the person who was there with you when you were sharing your idea for the very first time, reaching out to that person who said yes to you for the first time after all those no's, reaching out to that person who believed in you the very first time. Even, there are also people who believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. Like you give them your idea and they're like, how are you not doing this already? And you're looking at them like me. Or you might be that person who's like, I am the idea guy. I'll give you ideas, but me implement, no. And then someone comes along and challenges you like, why don't you take a chance on yourself for the first time? That connection can just be the very thing that gets you back to that place of motivation. Encouraging a positive outlook while managing demands. Isn't it difficult to have a positive outlook when things are looking so negative? When you're struggling at home, you're struggling at work, you're struggling between home and work. Everything becomes irritating when you're struggling. The roads, when it's raining or floods, then it's floods on the roads. Then or maybe that day you decided, because of financial constraints, now you have to leave your car at home, so using public transport. When you're to a meeting, that's the day that you'll be standing at that exact spot when that vehicle congas the pothole very badly, gets splashed on. That's the day all the Uber drivers, hey, uko siwezi fika. All of them. And you're still expected to have a positive outlook. That's the day when you go home and you just need one person to believe in you. Then you reach home, unaambiwa, see, I told you that thing would work. So there's no support at home, there's no support at work, there's no support anywhere, and then you just feel like everything is working against you. When that happens, you also get to remind yourself that you believe in yourself. The belief that you have in yourself counts. It starts with you. It's important to have faith in yourself. Even when you don't feel like it, it counts. And then you get to be that person who goes to say, you guys, you told me that it will not work. Guess what? You're the first people it's benefiting. Isn't that a nice feeling? So it encourages a positive outlook. While you're managing all these demands, you'll still go to that meeting even though you were splashed on with muddy water. Because the interesting thing is you'll go for the meeting and you find someone who has the exact solution for that muddy water. Whether it's another pair of pants, or like a kimono to cover up, or just the right cleaning product. Or someone that's the day you meet a stylist and like, come let me show you. Or you meet someone who is just looking to hear that someone else has the exact same struggle that they're going through and is willing to work through it, is willing to fight through it. And just like that, you have supported yourself, you have supported someone else, and you have supported each other in the process. Yeah. And you also have a funny story to tell. When your business is successful, you sit down and you share all those ridiculous stories, and people are looking at you on that engaged stage, and they're like, you went through all of that and you got here, even me again. Yeah. Now I want to look at resilience in entrepreneurship. So two things, resilience in entrepreneurship basically focuses on two things. One is flexibility and is empathy. So because we have agreed that in entrepreneurship, there's a lot of dynamics, it's ever changing, it's unpredictable, and we are always expected to be prepared for that. Yeah. So it demands flexibility in relation to the strategies that we apply, the activities that we do, the operations that we run. Sometimes we need to change our strategies. We need to move goalposts forward, backward. Sometimes we need to restructure our operations. Yeah. Does that make sense? We also need to understand emotions and address them. Emotional resilience is key to sustaining motivation and handling pressure situations. So the thing about emotions, you just need to understand them and to deal with them. Because if you do not have emotional strength and stability, you will not be able to handle stress and distress. And if we look at businesses, entrepreneurship, ventures, the people at the very top are expected to have all the answers, yeah? Especially during high pressure situations. It is the CEOs, the leaders, the authorities, everyone suddenly is looking to you to make the decision. How do you make decisions that are going to impact lives in the long term? You're only included when you're not emotionally stable, when you're not emotionally strong. So there is a need to understand what is going on with me as a person, as the CEO who has all these people relying on me. How do I feel about that? How am I dealing with myself? And how am I going to attack these emotions? And attack them in a way that leaves me standing and allows me to empathize with whatever my staff are dealing with. It's a simple equation that can help us with that. It's the capacity to be flexible and empathy when responding to these situations is equal to the ability to endure turbulence during crises and potential for growth opportunities. So when we are able to be flexible in our strategies, in our operations, in the goals that we are setting, in our activities, when we are changing from product A to product B, not because you wanted to, but because you were forced to. That flexibility will allow you to endure turbulence during crisis. But when you have the empathy to respond, when your staff member comes to you with a concern, when they're asking you to give them some time off because of something that they're dealing with, and you respond to them with grace, with kindness, with compassion, you will listen to them, you understand them on a human level, that yes, this person is a human being as much as they are my employee, that this person is my partner, my business partner, in as much as they're my business partner, they're also a human being. Yeah. So instead of telling someone, yeah, take a day and come back, we have targets. Give them that time. The ironic thing is when you slow down and listen, you're likely to achieve more than when you jump in and join the rat race. We're always on the move. There's a perception that for your business or your venture to be successful, you need to be running, chasing something all the time. But imagine it's more beneficial to slow down, to listen to yourself and to others. And that is what will lead to the potential for growth opportunities. So yes, we can thrive as businesses, we can thrive as entrepreneurs if we're flexible, if we're empathetic. And to look at it more practically, after the break, we'll be looking at coping mechanisms and what coping mechanisms look like for us as individuals on a personal level, what it looks like for the business, what it looks like in the long term. And then we'll be able to answer the question, can we really thrive or do we just stay surviving? Thank you.
Let's give her a much warmer hand clap so that she can take something to soothe her throat after she has poured out her heart so passionately. As you continue to write your questions, as I said, for those who are here with me at Ecobank training room, please, you may need to use your mobile data, scan the QR code, it's a Mentimeter. Please do write for us your questions. And you who is listening to us virtually online, the Q&A section of that link, please do send us a question. Let me read for you something connected to some of the insights that she has read. You remember that research that I read to you, I told you it was by Endeavor in partnership with ANDE and a few other organizations. So listen, a few years ago, Linda Rottenberg, co-founder and CEO of Endeavor, opened up about a deeply personal moment as Endeavor was celebrating its 11th year of empowering founders outside Silicon Valley and gearing up to launch in its 12th country. Linda received devastating news. Her husband was diagnosed with aggressive bone cancer. And all of this on top of the demands of raising their 3-year-old twin girls. The weight of her emotions became too heavy to bear alone, and she decided to let it out to the team, whose response was, now get this, now that we know you are a real person, we will follow you anywhere. So by the time your employees are saying now that you're a real person, what is it they have seen about you? The second thing is, does it have to wait until you, the leader, crumble for there to be empathy in your organization or in your family? Because as she was saying back in the day, you don't open up about some things in our family. True or not true? You also realize that for that to be a public report, it takes a lot of vulnerability because we are reading it here. It happened there. That's someone's personal story. So that's one, coping with a spouse who is chronically ill. Maybe she's a CEO, maybe she's white, so she can say. So let's come back home. Can you disclose when your spouse or your child is terminally ill? Or do we get tired of hospital visits and contributions? And you're an entrepreneur, how do you cope? And you're an employee, how do you cope? Or will your performance review look like toughen up? You're not the first one to have someone who's ill in hospital. Secondly, can you share when you're going through divorce, especially as a female? Or will you be told a lady keeps her home? What happened? How did we get here? Number 3, you have a sibling who is struggling with mental challenges. And maybe you are the firstborn, or you're deemed to be the one who carries the weight of the family. Can you share that it is affecting your family? It is affecting your productivity as an employee or as an employer, as a founder of a business? Or will you say, nowadays, these issues of mental, whatever, they are everywhere, so you can manage, right? So as we think through the coping mechanisms that our lovely speaker is going to speak to us, one of the things she is telling us is to think or have a good perspective, or well, maybe a different perspective. And so someone writes, it makes a big difference not to think about my anxieties, but actually to write them down, look at them in the eyes, and evaluate. Are these worries as big as my mind is telling me? Or is it just an overwhelming amount of emotions, making it worse than it is? You've seen that caption where there's a mirror and then the cat is trying to raise itself so that the image the cat sees on the other side is the image of a lion. At what point is that going to work? And at what point is all the other tools that you're going to be given going to work? Let's keep our questions coming. Let us welcome back our speaker. With a good warm hand, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jerry. So let's look at the definition of coping mechanisms and then look at two types, problem-focused and emotion-focused. And these two types are specifically. So coping mechanisms are a person's behavioral and cognitive efforts to respond to the internal and external circumstances that may deplete our resources. So essentially, it is the resources that we have in our mind and our behavior that allow us to respond to the circumstances around us. The way that we respond determines a lot. Respond in the right way, we can move towards thriving. Respond in the wrong way, we can fall back to surviving. So problem-focused mechanisms, they are aimed at identifying problems or changing circumstances and adapting goal-directed behaviors to them. In business, there's always a goal. There's always something that you want to achieve. There's always a target. There's whatever you do, whatever activity that you partake of in your business, it has to have an end goal. We don't just do things because we know that our time is money. And the activities that we do can either be earning us money or causing us to lose money. And emotion-focused mechanisms, they are aimed at evaluating emotions and their impact on achievement of goals in specific situations. So just like the example that Jerry gave of a business owner or an entrepreneur who has just found out the news that their spouse is terminally ill. How does this person respond to this situation emotionally? How does it affect how they operate at home? How does it affect how they operate at work? Is it something that they die with and then go to work and put on a mask and appear to be happy and okay? Or is it something that they take with to them and process with them even as they work? The idea is to acknowledge and understand that there are these things that we go through and to make room for them while we continue to function. Instead of sweeping them under the carpet or shoving them to the back of our minds or hiding them and assuming that if we use work as a distraction, we'll be okay. If you put yourself in that position, isn't it better to go to work with this thing, share it with someone, and let them know that you're struggling with this thing so that if your work is not what it used to be, you're not going to be bashed for it, but you'll get the support that you need for you to be able to maintain that level of work that you were able to do before and still feel supported as you support your ill spouse. Doesn't that make more sense than having to die with this thing alone and being expected to give 100%? Isn't it nice when you can reach out to your colleagues and do a fundraiser and instead of being judged, they rally together and they support you? Because the thing with terminal illness is we also cannot control the end game. Yes, we hope for the best, but in the event that you lose this person, at least you have your colleagues who are there to support you. So when you go back to work, it doesn't feel like a strange place. Because transitions are difficult, and that in itself is a transition. And so it is important to have that support at work, as much as it is important to have that support at home. So let's look at the coping mechanisms more practically. We'll start with the problem-focused mechanisms. Paying attention to problems. It's exciting in the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, isn't it? It's exciting to look at it, to envision it, to have the dream, to lay it all out. It's exciting, right? And to just enjoy it there. Then when it gets to the practical aspect, to the actual implementation, it can feel very overwhelming. And it helps to pay attention to problems. When problems start showing themselves, don't dismiss them, pay attention to them. Goal revision. We mentioned this earlier. Looking at your goals as a business and determining if really they can be achieved. If they can be achieved, well and good, work toward them. If they cannot be achieved, what is stopping you from achieving them? Is it a realistic goal in the first place? Do you have expectations that are realistic for this goal, or is it a goal that is unrealistic and cannot be achieved? Is it something that can be shifted to long-term focus? Maybe it can be achieved in the short term, but instead of spending time beating yourself up because you are not able to achieve that goal in the short term, maybe you can revise it and see how it can be achieved in the long term. Planning. We've all heard the saying that, failing to plan is planning to fail. So because entrepreneurship is a very unpredictable journey, it is important to plan for the unpredictability. It sounds weird, right? It sounds funny that you're planning for things that you don't really know will happen. But all the more reason to plan for challenges that you know will come. You don't know when or how, but you know they'll be there. So being ready for it, just knowing that there'll be a challenge. Taking action. Sometimes you'll be called upon to take action. Just think about times in your business when you've had to take action on the spot, when you've been called and you're told, we need to make a decision now. And the decision that you make at that point is a decision that will affect you for years to come. A decision that will affect the business for years to come, but you have to make it at that point. You have the presence of mind, the emotional stability and strength to make that decision. Seeking help. Seeking help in this case is in reference to the challenges that have been noted by the organization. Yeah, let's say maybe your HR approaches you and they let you know that we've noticed that there's an issue. We've had several staff coming up to us and letting us know that they've been working longer hours, or they're not able to achieve their targets, or they don't really know exactly where they fall. Maybe their job description has been A for a long time, but because the company is growing, it is now XYZ, and they are kind of struggling. So what does that say? That there's a communication issue, that maybe there's a strategy issue in the company, that it essentially communicates to you that there's an issue that needs to be addressed. And maybe where you have reached in your capacity as the visionary of this venture, in your capacity of the carrier of this plan, of this idea, maybe you've maxed out and you're at a point where you want to help, you want to respond, but you don't know how to. Seek help. Help could be after identifying the issues that are there, you know whether you need to reach out for a strategy training, you know whether to reach out for a mental health training, you know whether to offer mental health services for individual staff members. So being able to identify this is an individual issue, this is a staff issue, this is a whole business issue, that tells you which direction to take. Yeah. So if it is an individual issue, does the company or does this business offer benefits to these employees that, hey, I hear you, and the way in which I can help you is to connect you with individual therapy? Or is it a whole staff issue? For example, maybe there has been bereavement in the company. You can't just assume and keep working. You need to pause and organize for group therapy for your staff members. If it is more along the lines of strategy, communication, a training that is designed to deal with that exact issue can be sought after. And those are resources that you can organize for your employees to have access to. And that is what seeking help can look like in a problem-focused format. And let's look at it even more practically. If you have a problem, so you have the problem is here, and you have decided this is the problem that you're going to focus on. What is the next step? To characterize the problem, give the problem some character. Why is this problem happening? Has it happened before? Do you think it's going to happen again? If indeed it is going to happen again, how are we going to deal with it in future? If it happened before, how did we deal with it that time? Did it work? Did it not work? Who is it going to affect? Is it affecting us as the leadership? Is it affecting our staff members? Is it affecting our customer base? Who is it affecting? The next step is now to prioritize. So you had 3 problems, you've identified the main one, you've given character to this problem, and now you want to prioritize the steps that you need to take. Is it directing financial resources to this specific area? Is it shifting your product? Is it even reaching out to your market and asking them, hey, your customer base, sorry, and asking them, this is what we have been doing until this time. It has been working. But of late, we've realized that you're not responding. What can we do? And we've seen it a lot on social media when business owners reach out to their followers and ask them, are you interested in this product? Or should we do something else? Or we have been working with this for a long time and we've noticed that you're no longer interested in this product. What more would you like to see? The next step, systematize. Approaching this problem with solutions in a smart way that allows you to have control over your time, over your money, over your resources, your mental resources, so that you're not giving so much to solving problems and in the process depleting yourself. Does that make sense? So when we look at emotion-focused coping mechanisms, positive interpretations of negative events, it is so easy to look at struggles, at tough times in the worst way possible. When something goes wrong, and that thing, if we were to put a color on it, let's say something goes wrong, so now it's red. This problem is red. It has gone wrong, so it's red because now you're bleeding out. You begin to look at everything that, like, through that lens, it's red. So maybe you lost a deal that you are really hoping to make. You lose it, and you've lost money, you've lost the connection, it feels like a bridge has been burned. Then your car breaks down, you feel like, now see, even the car is breaking down, even that I can't make it work. Then you have an argument, you're like, no, I can't even get my point across properly. What am I doing running a whole business? And then, like, everything is seen in a negative light. And then every mistake after that, you're connecting it to that one thing that you did. And so you interpret everything in that negative light. You can change that by looking at it from a positive point of view. So what would that look like? When the deal falls through, instead of immediately jumping to thinking that you are the problem, or it's because of something you did or did not do, look at it practically. Maybe it fell through because it was the right deal at the wrong time. Maybe it fell through because where I am at as a business is not where this potential partner is at this time, and they're looking for something else. Maybe it was not meant to happen, however, I have a connection. So positive interpretations as opposed to negative interpretations. That also does something for your emotions. You can feel how you feel about the negative event, but you can respond to it positively. So you can feel bad. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel like it should have worked out. It's absolutely okay to feel like that. And it is important not to dismiss our feelings. But while you're creating space to feel how you're feeling, also create space and opportunity to give yourself grace by interpreting it positively. Because you know that is not the end. In business, a failure is not the end. It is not the end, yes? In business, a failure is not the end. It's another opportunity to succeed. It's a step that leads to something else. It's something that communicates to you. It is not the end, it is not a reason for you to give up. Reframing. Reframing is essentially revisiting your thoughts and reconstructing it. So, for example, I'll use the same example. Your first business failure. Instead of looking at it as the end of the world, you reframe it and you reconstruct it in a more positive light. And you begin to ask yourself questions. What can we do differently? What different direction can we take? Who can we consult with? Who can I open up to? What opportunity can I take next? It is not the end. Another example of reframing would be you entrust one of your employees with something. Maybe you decided, I am going to take a big step and release control and delegate. The one time, guys, the one time you decided to delegate is the one time it blows up in your face. The one time. And all along you've been telling yourself, no, let me tell you, I have to do this thing myself. I have to do it in a certain way. And then, you've been growing as a person, self-development, all of that. And then you feel like, I'm going to take a step forward, guys. I'm going to be a better person today, and I'm going to delegate. You find yourself firefighting, and you're wondering, this is why I don't delegate. But how about you reframe that? Instead of blaming the person that you delegated to, the employee that you trusted, instead of blaming them for something that went wrong, how about you reframe it and give them an opportunity to learn from their mistakes? How about you reframe it and look at them as another human being just like you, who is learning just like you are, who wants to grow just like you want to grow, who makes mistakes the same way you make mistakes? Maybe in this case, it was a really costly mistake. Like, yes, there are human beings who make mistakes, but then it was like, it cost us. And it's okay. You sit with them and it's not immediately you're fired. That's it, that's the end. It doesn't work like that. Otherwise, we would be firing ourselves every day. So give people a chance. Entrepreneurship can be called a game of chance. You take a chance on yourself every single moment of every day. Every networking opportunity that you have, you're taking a chance on yourself. And so you chose to take a chance on someone else. Maybe it didn't work out that time. But maybe it didn't work out so that you have a conversation at that time that saves you in the future. Maybe that conversation will lead to new opportunities, to a connection that you never knew you needed. So just slow down and reframe before you jump to conclusions. Distancing oneself from the situation. We have different personalities as human beings, and we respond to different situations differently. So sometimes something happens, someone might be quick with their mouth or with their response, they might say the wrong thing. Or maybe someone is highly emotive, and so they have an immediate flash of emotions. Or sometimes when you're stressed or frustrated, you feel it in your body, but like sometimes it's your head. Your head may feel like it's on fire. For some people, you just see that kabling popping on the side of the head, and you feel like they're about to blow up. In those moments, it's okay to be human, but step away. Especially as a leader in business, when you have people looking up to you, it's okay for them to see you emotional. It's okay for them to see you as being human. But because you're carrying so much more, because you are representing your business, you're representing a venture, you're representing something that you want to live beyond yourself. If you know that you're highly emotive, if you know that you're quick with your mouth, step away. Something is on fire, step away. If it's taking a walk, take a walk. If it's locking yourself in the office and taking a breather, just breathing. drinking a glass of water, drinking some, hot green tea, dawa, ginger shots. I see these days people are doing ginger shots, ginger and turmeric. Yeah, to just come back. It could be having a stress ball in your office and just going to, instead of punching a hole through the wall, you just go squeeze your stress ball. Just take, even if it's taking a day or two just away from work, go collect yourself. Sometimes I see men like taking a drive. They drive carefully, but they take a drive. Yeah, they just go. They don't know where they're going, but they're going. By the time they have gone and come back, things are making sense. But for you to do that, you need to communicate. You need to be able to tell. You don't just like get up and leave because it's like, maybe there's supposed to be a meeting that day. Big partnership. This deal is supposed to be closed today. You're the one, you're the closer. You are the one that people are expecting. And then, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 2 minutes to, nowhere to be seen. And because it's corporate, you know that these guys, when they're serious, they were sitting in the conference room 15 minutes before time. So they are there. So we don't just get up and leave when we are feeling the height or the peak of our emotions. Communicate. Like, I am aware that this problem is happening. I am not ignoring it. I need to step out. I'll be back. I know it sounds unrealistic, but it is important. Remember, we said that it's more effective to slow down and to pause than it is to just be running as part of the rat race. Just pause and say you need to go for a drive, you come back. And you might find you go for that drive, when you come back, you have just the exact solution. Or you will be in a better position to firefight, as opposed to when you respond immediately and you say all the wrong things, and then now you have to look for someone to do damage control, PR. And we are living in a time when a lot more people are looking for authenticity, genuineness in businesses, in the products that they use, in the interactions that they have. There's enough pretense. Don't you want to be the one running a business that offers that authenticity, that genuineness? And you'll find people are more likely to stick with you. People are more likely to stick with your product if you're being real. We have seen on social media, someone will post, I'll be away for a few days, or I'm going to take a break, I'll be back. There's that voice at the back of your mind that tells you, as an entrepreneur, that you take a break 1 to a week. Hey, when you're back, there'll be no one here. But guess what? Guys come back refreshed, with new ideas, motivated, and they find the very same people that they left and even more people. When you slow down, you're more effective. When you're real with yourself, when you're real with the people around you, you're more productive, you're more fruitful, your business has more impact. And it is usually more impact than you yourself are aware of. Changing one's point of focus. It is very distressing to focus on a problem and to think about it and to marinate in it and to ruminate and to talk about it 3 years down the line. You're still there giving your partner a headache for that one mistake they made at that time. And because you're so focused on that, you're not even able to see the growth that you've experienced, how far you've come as a company. Maybe when you started, you started on the streets, selling things on the streets. Hey, but these guys who sell, even credit on the streets. Have you ever tried selling credit? Guys, let me tell you, I've tried to sell credit and I failed. I did not know that I could fail at selling something that people use every day. Every day. How do you fail at selling credit? Yeah. But if I stopped at that point, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you right now. Hopefully you're not forced to listen to me and you're here by choice. Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is if I didn't change my focus at that point, after realizing that I can't sell something that is used on a daily basis, if I just think of myself as a failure at that point, I didn't shift focus, then the pattern would develop. And right now, I'd still be telling myself that I'm a failure. But I shifted focus and I saw, okay, clearly my strong suit is not sales. So let's look for what works for me. And here I am now, right? So it's the same case for you as an individual and as a business. If something is not working for you, it does not mean that you don't have skills or you don't have abilities or that your business is not useful. It just means that maybe your focus is on the wrong thing. And so shift and give yourself grace when you're making that shift. Be kind to yourself, be compassionate with yourself. It's okay to change and to move in a different direction. Because again, we as human beings are constantly evolving and changing and learning new things. Seeking social support. When we were talking about seeking help in the problem-focused approach, we were talking about seeking help from a business point of view, strategies, issues of communication among employees, therapy, whether it is individual or group therapy for staff. When we're talking about seeking social support and the emotion-focused approach to coping mechanisms, it is similar to what we are doing right now. Support in your industry. Do you know people in your industry that are where you want to be? Reach out to them, talk to them, read what they're doing, learn from what they're doing. Is it that it's been a while since you've been out networking, it's been a while since you've talked to people because you've just been at the desk behind your laptop or doing paperwork? Go for networking events. If you're constrained financially, look for the free ones. Webinars, reading books. That is what seeking social support refers to. It is social in the sense that you as a person, you need to feel your social battery. You need to talk to people who are doing what you do. You need to engage with people. You need to connect. We all agreed at the beginning that connecting is an important part of entrepreneurship. Well, guess what? It's not just for your business, it's also for you as a person. Sometimes you go for a business event and your person is what is filled up. Sometimes you go for a social event and you leave with 10 new ideas for your business. And that's why when we go for such events, we're told to be open-minded. You never know when your next idea is going to come. And now we can transition and look at examples of coping mechanisms practically. Implementing industry best practices. During tough times, it's very hard to start thinking of new ideas. So instead of beating yourself up, trying to figure out how you come up with the next best way of dealing with a situation, industry best practices. What has been done before that you can do that will work for you now? And then creating a culture of destigmatizing failures and looking at them as valuable learning opportunities. There's this thing about business and entrepreneurship that it's a perception that now we are always supposed to look put together, looking our best. You never look like you can make mistakes or like you're failing. But what if we looked at our failures as opportunities to learn, opportunities to grow? The chances of us growing are higher. Encouraging transparency and accountability as opposed to assigning blame. You don't want to create an environment, a working environment where people are always scared or on edge. That someone can come to work thinking, they're so focused on not doing the wrong thing instead of being focused on what doing the right thing looks like. So you don't want to have employees, you don't have staff members who are always scared, who are on edge, who, you call them now wanashtuka, they're always anxious. When they see the boss is passing, they throw the cup of water they were drinking and run back to their desk. That's not the kind of environment that you want. And the interesting thing is when you have a work environment that is transparent and accountable, it motivates you as an entrepreneur and the team that you are working with to build resilient organizations. So when you create positive working environments, when you create an environment where people are listened to, they're heard, they can be human, and they can share where they are at. They can give ideas, they can contribute, they have space. Then you are more likely to build a resilient organization, and you are more likely to have resilience as a person and as an entrepreneur. So to close, I'd just like to summarize the presentation with these 3 points. 1, check in with yourself on a regular basis. If you're not feeling 100%, your business and your team suffer. Checking in with yourself can look like, how am I feeling today? I'm feeling irritated. Why? Did something happen at work yesterday that is irritating me? Is it this problem that has not yet been solved? Why am I feeling like this? Or someone has a conversation with you and you just feel like, why are you talking to me? That tells you that there's something that is off. Could you be burnt out? Could you be stressed? Could you be tired? Are you out of ideas and it's frustrating you? Especially if you happen to be a creative person, it can be very frustrating to lack ideas. Do you need a refresher? Do you need a break? How are your employees doing? Are you the kind of person who interacts with them, who connects with them, who talks to them? Or do you sit in your corner office and leave them to deal with themselves where they are, as long as they're meeting their targets? Predictable and unpredictable challenges can inspire positive growth if we choose transformation over the option to give up. Don't give up. You started with a dream, you started with an idea, you started with a vision. There's a reason you had that dream, there's a reason you had that vision, there's a reason you had that idea. Dreams, visions, ideas, they change, they evolve as we continue to grow and evolve. So whether they grow or change is not so much the point, but the point is not to give up, because you can still thrive even amid pressure. Know that it is not a predictable environment, so be ready for unpredictable occurrences. And finally, resilient entrepreneurs can adapt to change, be innovative, and sustain business operations through stable and unstable environments. So you can thrive. You can thrive in business as an entrepreneur, you can thrive as an employer, you can thrive as an employee. You just need to learn to adopt to change, need to learn to be innovative, and to sustain business operations through stable and unstable environments. It is something that is learned, it is something that is developed, and it is something that comes with the nature of business. Thank you.
A bigger, warmer clap for our speaker, Jamila. Thank you very much. We feel treated. And we did not pay for the consultancy fee. So what do we do about that? I'll tell you something about it. You're clapping because of that. And your business people. Okay, so let me give you something to think about as we ask our questions. Only the live fish swim upstream. Think about that. Only the live fish swim upstream. Have you thought about that? You know what the converse means, right? Then the other thing is your right hand, put it where you know your heart is. Your right hand or palm, put it where you know your heart is, because only you know. Put it just now, even for you who is online. Your right hand, put it where you know your heart is. Have you done that? Have you done that? Do you feel that habit? That means you can. That means you can do it. That means you can swim upstream. That means you can use the coaching tools that we have been given by our lovely speaker. So let me read out your questions. So the first question was, well, maybe a comment. It would be great to start a program for founders that will be a peer support group for wellness in personal and business. And so our top of mind response is yes, we'll explore that to pilot with the Elevate SME so that we see how do we support you. Then the second question is, how do you balance between dynamics of mental health and wellness from a Pan-African cultural expectations vis-a-vis the modern viewpoint which encourages openness and vulnerability? You've got that? Then the other question is, as entrepreneurs, we carry more responsibilities on top of the family and personal responsibilities. And because of that, we may lose the balance. I would like to ask the expert what the most effective ways and strategies are to balance work and life responsibilities. Then we go to question 4. It is important to be flexible and empathetic to be able to thrive. How do you help a business partner who is rigid and not empathetic? What if this person is your husband or wife? All right, do you begin to pray for our speaker, because those questions are something. So for our online audience, okay, we have a few minutes before we close. There will be another round of questions, which is just one before we close. For those who are here, please do scan the QR code and ask us your questions. Do I say the floor or the fire is ready for you? Samila, karibu.
Thank you. Yeah, those questions. So the first one on how to balance between the dynamics of mental health and wellness from Pan-African cultural expectations vis-a-vis the modern viewpoint, which encourages openness and vulnerability. I would say striking a balance between these expectations and openness and vulnerability, because whichever way you look at it, if we're on a spectrum of openness and vulnerability, you can't be too extreme. If you're too open and too vulnerable, it's a problem. But if you're also not adapting to the change, if you're not adapting to that shift to openness and vulnerability, it is also a problem. So how about looking at breaking it down to the expectation that you have in that particular moment? So as opposed to feeling overwhelmed by the whole, break down that expectation in that moment and look at it in terms of what position should I take at this point? How open should I be? How vulnerable should I be? Or how should I represent my culture? How should I represent this expectation in the best way? Should I stick to what I know? Or should I shift to what is new? So kind of finding that balance. A very simplified example I can give of that is the disparities that we have between generations. The younger generation feels like they have all the answers. They know that older generations are the ones with the problem. You guys, you suffered because you didn't do what we are doing. But there is a need for balance, because it is true that older generations have so much more to offer that the younger generation will be close to if they stick to that mindset. So yes, be open, be vulnerable, but there is nothing wrong with looking at what was there before. Yes, well, the younger generation would look and say that you guys, you suffered because you didn't mnakaa tu ngumu all the time. You don't share. As the older generation, you know that there are situations where if you opened up, it will be chaos. You know that if you shared that thing, it will be disaster. And so you knew that at this point, the best thing to do, kangumu and move. So the question is, ask yourself, using this example, which situation do you just swallow and move? And which situation do you pause and open up and share? Because sometimes vulnerability can result in the very damage you're trying to avoid. But sometimes, kukaa ngumu pia can do the very same thing. So always come back to yourself, because beyond those Pan-African expectations, beyond that modern idea of openness and vulnerability, there's also you as a person. There are the values that you have. The values that you have as a woman, the values that you have as a man, the values that you have as an African. A lot of times we are put in situations in our businesses where you have to make a decision that impacts on your values. Are you going to take the step to the right or to the left? And maybe that time there's so much pressure to move to the left, but you know deep down in your heart you need to move to the right. So it may sound like a big thing, but sometimes it comes down to the small things, breaking it down and knowing if you can make a decision that you would be all right with as a person, that you'll go home after making that decision and you will have a peaceful night's rest. But also making a decision that is true to your values and making a decision that aligns with what you believe in, because our beliefs also pour into our ventures, yes? So making decisions that also reflect that consistency. That for this one, I know it's tough, guys, but with this one, we just swallow and move, because that is what is needed right now. Okay, this one, guys, now we need to pause and let's have a conversation around it. And it is also very important to make room for the different lessons that we can learn from different generations. So younger generations do not dismiss older generations, and older generations do not dismiss younger generations. There is value in how problems have been approached in the past. There's value in how problems are approached now. And being open to those differences kind of makes such a big difference for us as ourselves. No one is 100% right and no one is 100% wrong. I hope that answers that question. The next question. As entrepreneurs, we carry more responsibilities on top of the personal and family responsibilities. And because of that, we may lose the balance. So I'd like to ask the experts what the most effective ways and strategies are to balance work and life responsibilities. So that first step, you've already taken the first step by recognizing that your problem at the moment is work-life balance. And it also comes down, again, to your values. What is important to you? So there are values in your relationship at home. There are values in how you're raising your family, if you have a family. There are values in your approach to how you lead your lifestyle. And then there are values, social values, how you relate with your friends. Values in the workplace, how you want your business to run. So one way to figure out how to get that work-life balance you're looking for is looking at how these things are running. Is your relationship working in a way that it is adding to your values? Are your needs in that relationship being met? Because if they're not being met, that's what you'd be thinking about instead of thinking about work when you're at work. So are your needs in your relationship being met? Is your relationship moving in a direction that is in line with your values? Bringing it closer home to that entrepreneur. You know, entrepreneurs are visionaries, they are dreamers, they are people who move and change. So the person you are today is not necessarily the person you are tomorrow. What does that mean for your relationship? It would mean that you also need to be with someone who is aware of that part of you, that you have ambitions that you're going to keep chasing. So there's a kind of support that you're going to require from this person. And because if you're married, then the assumption is that when this person was choosing to get married to you, they were making a commitment to you at that point, to the you will be 2 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later. As you grow and change, your business will grow and change. Yeah. So is this person willing to move with you, to support you as you go? If you're feeling dissatisfied with your relationship at that point, that communicates to you that we need to have a conversation. So assuming that this is a couple who is open to having these conversations, you can sit down and share how you're feeling at that point and how it is affecting you and where you would like to go. Because when things in your relationship are moving in the way that you want them to, then you will feel fulfilled in your relationship and you'll feel like there's a sense of support, and then you will feel like there's a place that you can go to at home. And that gives you that sense of balance in your life at home. At work, are things happening the way you want them to? Especially if you have perfectionist tendencies. You want things to move in a certain way. You want the office to look a certain way. You want people to interact in a certain way. Are you setting the base for that? Are you setting the stage for that? Are you yourself an example for that? Because more often than not, you can have your policies in place, you can have your standards of operation in place, but your employees are not necessarily leading the policies, they are looking at you. So if you say this is a safe space, you can share, I will listen to you, you can be heard. But the first time someone comes to talk to you, you chase them out of your office. And then you're wondering, hey, why are things moving where I want them to? So the values that you have as a person, because they are also the values which fit into your business, then you should be running your business in a way that is meeting your values. So for example, if you value peace, then you want to run an operation that sustains your peace. You don't want to have headaches all the time because of work. You want to treat people in a way that encourages peace. If you value family, then you know you're going to run your business in such a way that you know you have time for family. You will be able to say that I'm taking a break for a month and feel no guilt because you value family. Especially as entrepreneurs, it can be very difficult because you feel like the moment you step away, hey, the business is going to start losing out, things are going to start falling apart. But it is important not to feel guilty when you take a break. And because you're doing something for your family because you value family, then it doesn't mean that when you spend time with your family, then you're neglecting work. It just means that you as an individual have made the decision to show up for yourself in your life in a way that is fulfilling to you. So you want to have a family, you will show up for your family. You want to run a business, you will show up for your business. And it's not that thing of pushing yourself to give 100% in all of it. It is giving yourself that space to be. I want to be with my family, and you can be with them. And be present with them. Don't go and be with your family and then you're spending the entire time thinking about work. You're taking calls or you're on your laptop. But also, when you go to work, don't go to work and then instead of focusing on work, you're thinking about home. And not thinking about it in the sense that, yes, you will always have all these things in the back of your mind, but dedicating your time because your time is important. So if it's family time, it's family time. If it's time for work, it's time for work. If it's time for you, it's time for you. And in that time when it is time for you, you can also use that opportunity to check what is creating that lack of balance so that you can restore it. So at the end of the day, if you feel like something is missing, then that tells you that there's one of your values that is not being satisfied. So you can identify it and then take action towards rectifying that. It's important to be flexible and empathetic and to be able to thrive. How do you help a business partner who is rigid and not empathetic? What if he is your husband or your wife? That is a tough one, but it has an answer. The thing with empathy and with emotions generally is there's almost an underlying assumption that people are willing to open up, that people are willing to have this conversation that you want to have. And guess what? You might be the one in that partnership or in that marriage who is down with the emotions, who is, you know, you're ready. Vulnerability, easy. Openness, fine. But you happen to marry someone who is the complete opposite. And you know, we don't change people. That's not our job. To change, for someone to change, they have to be willing to change themselves. You can't force someone to change. And so I would argue, and also because now there's also that delicate balance between sustaining this relationship, because you don't want the relationship to end, but also these issues need to be addressed. So one step is towards addressing that is to shift focus back to yourself. And it's hard because essentially what it looks like is you managing yourself and preparing yourself to handle this other person. So because you know that they are rigid, you prepare for their rigidity. Because you know that you're the one who is open and willing to be vulnerable and willing to handle these things, then you take up that role instead of your focus being on why can't you be like this, or you know if only you responded like this, things would be different. That makes you more frustrated. And it makes it harder for you to see this person as someone that you love and care for. So you want to be able to see them as the someone that you love and care for, but you also want your business to grow. So what does that look like? It looks like learning emotional regulation. It looks like learning how to show up better interpersonally. It could look like you going for individual therapy so that you understand how best to communicate with this person. Because they may be rigid, but you got married to them, right? So that means you know how to communicate with them. Yeah? That is very true. By the way, that is very true. True colors come out after marriage. But the thing is, you've made a commitment. And so you don't necessarily jump to ending it because of this frustration. You look for ways out. Asking this person to change is not working. So what do? It means you're getting coping mechanisms for yourself as the spouse because you still love this person. It means you're working on your own emotions so that you know how not to lose your mind when you're talking to them, especially if you're now talking to them about business. It means learning to understand how this person communicates to you. Because whether or not we are rigid, we all have emotions. Yeah. And the interesting thing is, as this person ideally sees you changing and growing, as they see you not reacting, when they're pushing your buttons and you're not phased when they're pushing it unlocks something in them. And naturally, as you work on yourself, naturally this person will be inclined to make changes because they'll see, hey, last year you were not like this. What has changed? What is different? Or I've been doing this, but we are still moving. How come? I've been trying to get on your nerves the last 2 weeks and you're just relaxed. How? It is hard. It is very hard. And especially in a marriage relationship with all those dynamics, it is very hard. But you will be more frustrated trying to figure out how to change someone than you would be if you work on yourself. Because again, in a marriage relationship, there is, as one person grows, if the relationship is to be sustained in the long term, then this other person also needs to grow. You cannot be growing 100% and you're married to someone who is not even making 20%. And that is just the reality of being human. The very things that even attracted you to that person as an entrepreneur told you that this is someone that I can work with, someone I can grow with, someone I can be with as I go and achieve my dreams. And reminding yourself that there's a human being in there at the height of frustration. At the end of that rigidity, there's a human being. Thank you.
And for more details, couples therapy, they will send you the coach or the therapist for that, because evidently right there is a lot. So ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our session this morning, and it is actually right now afternoon. So as we close and as we get our closing remarks, there is a QR code. Remember, our focus was mental wellness in business. That is why I said couples therapy. I'll send you the coach. But for business, we would like to give you a session, see how much we care for you. Over and above breakfast, we're going to have a session for a coaching session as pertains to you being an entrepreneur. So please do scan that code, both for us who are here in person as well as online, and put in your details as pertains to a coaching session. Please note that there are a few slots left so that we can give you a meaningful session. As you do that, this is something that was written actually from, could be a podcast by Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you want to change some aspect of our, if we want to change some aspect of our reality, we have to think, feel, and act in new ways. We have to be different in terms of our responses to experiences. We have to become someone else. We have to create a state of mind. We need to observe a new outcome with that of a new mind. You have to see it and begin to create its presence in the situation that you want. Our closing remarks will be by our host, Ecobank, and Mr. Obed will come and give those remarks. Karibu sana, Obed, let us welcome him, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. I have two questions. Depending on how you respond, I may decide to give everybody a pack. So my first question is, are we happy to be here?
Yes.
If you're happy to be here, you clap once. Has this session been fruitful?
Yes.
If it has, then clap twice. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Ecobank, I want to thank you most sincerely for creating time to actually be part of this conversation. Particularly, I would want to thank our trainer for the day for the good delivery. Wasn't it good? It was a very good conversation, and personally, I've actually learned a lot from it. Can we appreciate her? I think we can do better. So, thank you very much. And I also want to appreciate our partners today, Wild International. Thank you very much. Melanin Capital, and you guys, of course, for creating time to be here. We were having a conversation yesterday, and you remember how yesterday looked like. We actually didn't think that most of you would be here today, but we were extremely excited that despite the weather, we're actually able to come and be part of this conversation. So on behalf of Ecobank, I want to thank you. And beyond actually the normal banking that we do, we are very, very particular about supporting our customers, and especially those in business, because as my colleague Jackie mentioned, Elevate has two components. One of the things we do is actually financial support. If you're in business today and you're looking for maybe a small loan, or for you to be able to inject or grow your business, it's one of the things that we can do. The second aspect, which is also very critical, is actually support in terms of trainings. We get to speak to you. One thing we ask our customers when they come on board is, what is your biggest pain point? Someone will tell you probably my biggest nightmare is around mental wellness in business. So we organize with our trainers, Wild International, to get experts in the room to speak to our customers. If it's about financial fitness, it's also one of the things that we actually do. So beyond the normal banking, we are very keen about supporting our customers to make sure that we grow together. So today, and on behalf of Ecobank, I want to sincerely thank all of you for coming here. And for the team that is here today physically, probably in the next 20 minutes, I'll try and make sure that all of us have a gift from Ecobank. So we get a coffee. So thank you very much. And we have more sessions, and we're on the lookout to be able to send communications for you to be able to join, and to be happy to host you next time. Thank you very much. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Obed. And again, thank you to you all who made time today. We keep it just a morning so that you can get the rest of your day to run your business. So as we wind up, something for you to think about as pertains to your mental wellness, and for you to thrive amid pressure or despite pressure. You cannot outperform your current concept of self, nor rise above your level of self-worth. You cannot outperform your current concept of self, nor rise above your level of self-worth. Remember, it begins from the inside out. It is an inside job. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And since my guests here, you have been promised good things, make sure you have met someone else, because those are good things from outside. Remember, we have said it is an inside job. So now, remember the networking that we said, and that person who promised you something, they did not say it in black and white, but it sounded like they have a way. I know a guy who knows a guy. You know that? Now find that guy who knows a guy and get your solutions before you leave today. Of course, as Obed is preparing your gifts. Thank you.